The pandemic era of pro wrestling was awful. Beginning in 2020 and lasting for over a year, the world had seemingly stopped while pro wrestling tried to continue on, and it was pretty dreadful throughout the whole time period. You gotta give respect though to the guys and girls who still went into work during the early days of all the uncertainty, and that's not just wrestlers I'm talking about either. I know there's a giant divide in regards to how things were handled, but I'm sure given the option that most people would have preferred to stay at home until more information came to light. But the WWE had the attitude of the show must go on, and to be fair also, there were superstars who said they were proud to continue working to provide entertainment for fans at home. The WWE were able to continue producing and recording new matches, and they were allowed to still broadcast shows through the WWE Network and through their weekly television deals with Fox and the USA Network. At first, I thought the empty arena matches could be good with more focus put on the in-ring aspect of pro wrestling, and we'd get to see a lot more no-nonsense, no-frills, good old-fashioned wrestling, but that simply wasn't the case. Not everyone will agree with me here, but I felt WWE overproduced their shows during the pandemic era with camera cuts getting ramped up, even more crowd noise getting piped in, giant light shows, a roster that at times acted completely oblivious to the fact that there was no one inside the venue. I know everyone was trying their best and following orders, but I really struggled to sit through those pandemic shows because they were just so, I don't know, they were weird. I think that bringing things back to basics could have helped a lot, but anyway, there were a couple of creative ideas that actually worked out pretty well, and one of those ideas is the subject for today's video, the Boneyard Match. The Undertaker and AJ Styles had a cinematic match at WrestleMania 36. It was probably the biggest highlight of the whole pandemic era of WWE, and today we're going to take a look at how that match came to be and what it meant for the Undertaker. WrestleMania 36 was going to be held in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. In the early days of COVID-19, the company announced that they were hopeful Mania could go ahead as intended, but as the situation got worse and as other sports began suspending their seasons, the WWE really had no choice. The event would end up getting moved to the WWE Performance Center. Mania 36 would not air live. Instead, the event featured a lot of tape matches that got recorded on March 25th and March 26th. Keep in mind that WrestleMania 36 was originally going to air live on the 5th of April, so for the first time ever, WrestleMania was going to feature nothing but pre-recorded matchups, and the event, now expanded to 2 nights, was going to happen with no fans in attendance at all. I and many other fans would never miss WrestleMania, and I remember being really curious about how the WWE were going to pull this off. There was a lot of debate around if WWE should even record shows to begin with, and many fans would have preferred if their favourite superstars stayed at home like everyone else. Keep in mind that this was the very early days of lockdown when information was very sparse, but WrestleMania 36 carried a lot of intrigue, and you were just hoping all the additional effort from the company was worth it. I know I said the pandemic era was awful, but at the same time, I nor anyone else wanted it to be bad. This new format for WrestleMania 36 gave WWE an opportunity to experiment with new production styles and even new locations for matches. In all honesty, I think it was a necessity for WWE to take things away from the empty arena because not only was it a harsh visual reminder of the state the world was in, but we also quickly realised that old trigger finger Kevin Dunn wasn't going to chill out in the production truck, and the presentation of the normal matches confined to the Performance Center left a lot to be desired. So moving matches and the new locations and filming matches in new ways was an excellent move in my opinion. It broke the shows up nicely and you wouldn't really know what to expect. Mania 36 featured 2 cinematic matches, the Boneyard Match and the Firefly Funhouse Match. I'll cover the Firefly Funhouse match in an upcoming video, but the Boneyard Match definitely looked more like something out of an actual movie. Elaborate lighting, visual effects, more experimental camera angles, a music score, and even sound effects were used to enhance the presentation. It was like nothing WWE had ever produced before, and in the end, the vast majority of fans really enjoyed it, even if it kind of represented something you'd see in an old WCW mini-movie. It should be noted too that Matt Hardy's final deletion in Impact Wrestling gave other companies a lot of confidence to pull off these kinds of cinematic matches. The final deletion got a lot of praise for how absolute absolutely insane yet very entertaining it was. So the concept of cinematic matches was already established before the Boneyard match at Mania 36. Going into the match though, I was really undecided. I'm an old school guy who likes wrestling matches inside a wrestling ring. I was skeptical going into the bout, and even afterwards I was still undecided if I really liked it. But after a few more viewings and after really thinking about everything that went into making the match work, I've become a pretty big fan of the Mania 36 Boneyard match. AJ Styles watched The Undertaker's first appearance on Steve Austin's Broken Skull sessions, and when Taker talked about leaving wrestling on his own terms, the Phenomenal One immediately got in touch with the Phenom. AJ and Taker got to know each other away from the ring through mutual friends, so AJ was able to contact Undertaker directly. AJ said on The Undertaker's Last Ride documentary that he wanted to make sure that he and Taker had a match if Taker was indeed considering retiring sooner rather than later. Taker was searching for a good match to end his career on. He kept coming back to have matches due to not being satisfied with how his previous matches turned out, but he was unsure about this match with AJ. AJ went over Vince's head and he contacted Undertaker. Taker told AJ he would have loved to have worked with him 10 or 15 years ago, but he wasn't so sure he could go out and have a great match in 2020 with someone like Styles. Almost as if Taker felt he would hurt AJ's potential for having a great WrestleMania match with someone else. Taker praised AJ as a great storyteller in the ring. Steve Austin said AJ was the best in the world at that very time. Even Taker's wife, Michelle McCool, a woman who always showed a great deal of concern when her husband kept going back for more matches, she thought a match with AJ would be perfect because there's no one else in WWE who could do it better. Taker took a few weeks to think about it. AJ confidently said whatever decision Undertaker makes, it'll be the right one. Undertaker then said he was gonna do it. Taker and Vince decided to rib AJ by saying Taker was gonna work with someone else just for the sake of it. But the Mania showdown was now on and AJ said this was going to be the biggest match of his career. Keep in mind that this was before everything shut down. There was no talk of boneyard matches or cinematic matches. As far as AJ and The Undertaker were concerned, this was a one-on-one match that was going to happen in the ring. The build-up started on the Super Showdown event in Saudi Arabia when the OC took out Rey Mysterio backstage. They did this so AJ could win a gauntlet match. The Undertaker ended up appearing though as the final competitor and AJ got chokeslammed by the Phenom. Many thought this was a one and done deal like many of the appearances we see in the Saudi Arabia shows, but no. AJ would make the short rivalry extremely personal over the next few episodes of Raw, the final episodes of Raw before fans got kicked out and the pandemic era officially began in WWE. On the March 2nd, 2020 episode of Raw, AJ said Taker robbed him of the honour of winning the gauntlet match in Saudi Arabia, and it's clear to AJ that he and Undertaker are on a collision course. So Styles sent a warning to The Undertaker. Taker should watch AJ's match against Aleister Black and realise that the Phenom isn't the man anymore. He may be a legend, but he's trying to hold on to a spotlight that isn't his. The spotlight belongs to AJ Styles. Styles made Aleister Black fight Gallows and Anderson before the match began, and after AJ put Aleister away with a phenomenal forearm, he mocked The Undertaker by using the dead man's signature rest in peace pin. The Elimination Chamber pay-per-view was up next where AJ was booked in an ODQ match against Aleister, and the dead man mustn't have been too bothered about AJ's warning. The lights go out as the OC attacks Black, they come back on and The Undertaker's in the ring. AJ tries to attack Taker from behind with a phenomenal forearm, but he ends up getting chokeslammed again. The lights go out, Taker disappears, and Aleister Black ends up beating AJ thanks to this pretty big distraction. AJ was now seriously annoyed, so annoyed that he crossed the line the next night on Raw by addressing the highly respected Undertaker by his real name and bringing up The Undertaker's family during a promo. AJ says he remembers WrestleMania 33, The Undertaker taking a loss to Roman Reigns and leaving his hat and jacket in the ring to symbolize his retirement. AJ thinks that Taker maybe should have retired when he lost to Brock Lesnar at Mania 30, but that doesn't matter right now. The point is, The Undertaker ruined a beautiful and powerful moment moment by coming back, and it's all because of the dead man's ego and Undertaker wanting that spotlight. Coming back once again is going to cost The Undertaker though, because AJ wants a match against the dead man at WrestleMania 36. AJ doesn't see a mythical monster anymore in The Undertaker, he doesn't see this revered phenom anymore. All AJ sees is a broken down old man named Mark Calloway who should have retired when he was in his prime. Styles then says he knows why Taker keeps coming back. It's his wife Michelle. Michelle plays Undertaker like a fiddle. Anything she wants, she gets, even though Taker gets hurt every time he gets in the ring. She's the most conniving person AJ knows, and AJ gives Taker some advice. Michelle's gonna run him into the ground, but AJ's gonna help her. AJ says he's gonna take The Undertaker's soul at WrestleMania. He's gonna do exactly what Michelle wants him to do, and really, The Undertaker has nothing to lose. He no longer has his pride or his dignity, and the mystique of The Undertaker is long gone. The fans don't care about him anymore, so Taker can accept the challenge and AJ can literally put the final nail in The Undertaker's coffin. The WWE were then told there would be no more fans allowed in the arenas, and WWE Raw and SmackDown would emanate from the Performance Center in Orlando. A contract signing was held on the March 16th, 2020 episode of Raw, and this one happened when WWE were still unsure about what was going to happen with WrestleMania. WWE wanted the event to happen in Tampa, but it was looking less and less likely that the biggest show of the year would happen in front of a live audience. Taker marches to the ring and he's clearly in a very bad mood. He notices there's no match contract on the table, and that's because AJ has it backstage. Looks like AJ's in absolutely no rush to get in the ring just yet. Styles says The Undertaker just has to interject himself into WWE at WrestleMania season over and over again, comparing it to Michael Jordan injecting himself into the NBA Finals or Peyton Manning interjecting himself into the Super Bowl. This is all Michelle McCool's doing though. Old money Michelle's making The Undertaker dust off his crusty leather jacket and hat so he can have another match at WrestleMania where he'll likely embarrass himself. Taker's a shell of his former self. He can't run and he can't hide at WrestleMania. When the show's over, AJ will gladly pay for The Undertaker's assisted living costs, and then Taker can finally rest in peace. AJ signs the match contract. He sends Gallows and Anderson down to the ring to give the contract to AJ's WrestleMania opponent, but of course The Undertaker wasn't going to make things that easy. The lights go out again and the dead man appears behind the Good Brothers. Gallows and Anderson get destroyed, and The Undertaker puts the signed contract in Anderson's mouth before walking back up the rampway. The match was now official, but the competitors would soon find out that the initial plan of a one-on-one match was now being changed into something completely different. WrestleMania got moved to the Performance Center, and AJ and The Undertaker's match was not going to take place in the ring. Instead, the decision was made to move the match to an off-site location around 30 miles away from the Performance Center in what would be billed as a Boneyard Match. AJ challenged Undertaker to the Boneyard Match on the March 23rd episode of Raw. The match was then taped 2 days later on the 25th and going into the 26th morning, and the match would air on night 1 of WrestleMania 36 on the 4th of April. So this match was in the bag for over a week before it aired on TV. AJ continued to make fun of The Undertaker's personal life, and he once again spoke about Michelle McCool being a gold digger and the reason for Undertaker dragging himself to the ring every year during WrestleMania season. But on the Raw before WrestleMania, The Undertaker cut a promo that made fans pay attention. This wasn't the classic Undertaker AJ was going to deal with at Mania. It was a unique mix of the Dead Man, the American Badass, and Mark Calloway. The Undertaker addressed AJ by his real name, Alan Jones. He called him a small man with a big mouth, a guy who was content being a big fish in a little pond years ago, because AJ knew he didn't have what it takes to hang with the big boys. AJ was afraid to come over and fight guys like The Undertaker, Steve Austin, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, Eddie Guerrero, Booker T and Edge. The very best in the business. AJ mustn't be that phenomenal because he waited until the elite performers of the industry were all gone, but the thing is, Taker's still around. Undertaker said that he understands business and he understands the insults directed at him personally, but Allin made a mistake by going after Michelle. Maybe AJ's mad that Michelle does a better Styles clash than the phenomenal one, but nonetheless, AJ's going to pay the price in the Boneyard. If AJ wants to be relevant at the Showcase of the Immortals, then there's no one better than The Undertaker to make Styles famous. Taker's bringing the unholy union, The Undertaker, the American Badass, and Mark Calloway. And at WrestleMania, AJ Styles will rest in peace. On The Undertaker's Last Ride documentary, he said he was unable to come back as the old Undertaker because the storyline didn't really allow it. He wasn't sure how the original Phenom would deal with someone talking about his real wife, so it made more sense to bring real elements into his character for the WrestleMania Boneyard Match. The side of the Boneyard match looked like absolutely nothing at all before WWE moved in to build the final set. Triple H and Michael Hayes worked on the match alongside Taker and AJ, and everyone involved was seriously impressed with the set that the production guys built. Undertaker, Triple H, AJ and Hayes paid a few visits to the set while it was still under construction, and the brainstorming began about how the match would play out. Triple H and Michael Hayes agreed that Taker and AJ could and should ad-lib throughout the match. So anytime you hear AJ and Undertaker talking to each other, it was all done without a script and completely on the fly. I imagine though a few lines were suggested before filming began. It took 5 days to build this set, and WWE filmed the match from 9 PM to 5 PM, so that was 8 hours total to get just one match taped. On the way to the set, The Undertaker got some really bad news from his niece. Taker answered the phone and heard news that his brother passed away, and he said this horrible news made filming the match very difficult. He also said that being in a Boneyard match that was centered around being buried made it even more tough. The Boneyard match main evented night 1 of WrestleMania. It begins with a funeral hearse arriving at the Boneyard, and viewers expected The Undertaker to appear, seeing as his classic theme song's also playing during the intro, but AJ Styles pops out of the coffin and he's looking pretty pleased with his grand entrance. AJ can hear a motorbike in the distance, he gets all excited, and Metallica's Now That We're Dead plays as The Undertaker, the unholy trinity, arrives to the Boneyard. We get a panning shot of The Undertaker getting off his bike that looked really good. You gotta give WWE credit for some of the shots they got during this match. They used the fog and the lighting to great effect. AJ surprised Michelle let The Undertaker come out this late, and he shows Taker the shallow grave that he prepared earlier, complete with an old battered up headstone. AJ calls Taker an old man, and Taker says this old man's got more than enough for little AJ. AJ picks up a brick that's conveniently placed at his foot. Taker stops AJ's planned attack by punching him in the mouth a few times. Undertaker calls AJ by his real name while reminding Allin that it was he who wanted this match, and the phenomenal one gets thrown into the coffin that he brought along to this matchup. Taker then finds a small lead pipe on the ground and he tries to stick it in AJ's face. AJ moves out of the way, Taker smashes a hearse window, and apparently this cut was completely unintentional. There wasn't supposed to be any blood in this match. AJ gets tossed onto the car windshield and Undertaker takes a seat beside his opponent, questioning if AJ still wants a piece of this old man as Styles rolls around in pain. The two end up on top of the car where they share punches, but it's The Undertaker who gets the better of AJ. The dead man ends up mounting AJ and the phenomenal one takes a ton of punches. Taker reminds AJ to never speak about his wife again as he wrecks his face. Styles knows what he has to do, he has to fight dirty, so he throws some soil into The Undertaker's eyes and he hits Taker with a low blow. Now full of confidence, AJ brings Taker to his shallow grave and he tries to punch Taker into his final resting place, but Undertaker's quick to turn it around and AJ falls in. This could have been the end of the match if AJ didn't bring along a few friends. Gallows and Anderson get The Undertaker's attention and the Good Brothers tell Taker that the fun's just about to start. The shed behind them then begins to glow and a bunch of druids appear. Druids were usually associated with The Undertaker, so maybe this was mind games by the OC, and it seems to work. The Undertaker's not sure what to make of this. Undertaker's able to take out the Druids without much effort, but the Good Brothers jump Taker and take advantage, for a moment anyway. The Undertaker uses a wooden stick that was once a shovel to fend off Gallows and Anderson. Things then get pretty bad for Taker when AJ reappears and he smashes a tombstone over Taker's skull. This shot knocks Taker straight to the ground, and now AJ's gonna take control for a while. The Phenomenal One taunts the Undertaker, telling him he should have stayed at home. He then orders Taker to stand up and Styles spears him through a wooden panel. Taker can't breathe as AJ calls him an old man and a shell of his former self. AJ says Taker hasn't got it anymore, he's a broken down old bitch, he's a nobody, and Undertaker defiantly flips AJ off as he sits up and tries to get a breath. AJ takes a shovel, it's time for Styles to do the world a favour. He smacks Taker across the back and the American Badass falls into the grave. It's over. The career of The Undertaker has ended. AJ gets into his digger, he starts the engine and he laughs at the thought of putting Taker away for good. But then a bright light appears behind Styles and The Undertaker has transported. This has become quite the meme ever since WrestleMania 36, but it's still awesome. The music ramps up as the Phenom stares at AJ before punching his lights out. And Styles only really has one option now, he has to try and run away. AJ climbs on top of the shed, but Undertaker follows him. Taker says you don't last 30 years in the business without taking an ass kicking as he climbs up the ladder. And when both men stand on the shed roof, the Undertaker sets off a giant fire pyro that freaks AJ out. Taker then hits his opponent with a big boot. The Good Brothers return and they get taken out too, with Gallows getting thrown off the edge and Anderson getting tombstoned. So now AJ has no backup. AJ wants to know how the Undertaker's still standing. He tries to hurt the dead man, but Taker's no-selling at this point as he reminds AJ once again that this is what Styles wanted. AJ then gets chokeslammed off the shed, but the Undertaker isn't through with AJ just yet. The next part is my favourite part of the whole match. It isn't the physicality, it's the dialogue. Taker wants AJ to remember Michelle's name. He also wants AJ to tell him his age because it looks like the old man has won this match. Taker reminds Styles that he tried to hurt the Phenom's legacy, but AJ can't speak. So Undertaker drags him up and he lifts AJ on his shoulder. Undertaker says AJ won't last as long as the dead man has, but AJ deserves credit. He's a lot tougher than the Undertaker gave him credit for. All AJ can say is please don't bury me as he gets thrown to the floor. Taker then picks AJ up by the neck and he asks AJ if he looks like an old man now. AJ says he's sorry and he again begs the Undertaker not to bury him. And it looks like the Undertaker has a change of heart as he loosens up his grip and he tells AJ he's not gonna bury him. Taker smiles and he tells AJ he gave him a hell of a fight. Not many people could go toe to toe with the Undertaker like that, and it's almost like Taker respects Styles after the fight he just put up. So Taker lets go of AJ after embracing him and he goes to leave the boneyard to end the match. But of course Taker wasn't being serious, he was messing AJ around. The dead man turns around, he kicks AJ. Taker gets a good look at AJ lying in the shallow grave and he decides to get in the digger and drop the soil over AJ's lifeless body. Taker then reveals that the messed up old gravestone was actually AJ's all along as a new rendition of the classic Undertaker theme plays to signify the end of the match. And that's it, the Boneyard match and the Undertaker's final match is over. Taker grabs his bandana before getting back on his motorbike. He raises his fist in the air as flames shoot out and the Undertaker symbol appears on the shed. And Taker maybe receives the greatest ever send-off in WWE history as he rides his bike out of the Boneyard. As mentioned earlier, I really didn't know what to make of this at first, and it took me a couple of watches to appreciate it for what it was. At the time, I think I was a bit more curious about how this pandemic WrestleMania would play out, and seeing as cinematic matches weren't really my thing, I kinda went into this one wanting to dislike it. But after a few viewings, after understanding it's Taker's last ride, after appreciating the work that went into building the match on such short notice and not taking it so seriously, it's a match that I'd now recommend people check out. Would I have preferred a more traditional match in the ring? Absolutely. But the nature of this match allowed Taker to go out on a high note, and let's be honest, any shortcomings could get cut out and the guys could do multiple takes of certain spots, so it definitely benefited The Undertaker. Taker himself said he was happy with how the match turned out, and he was happy to say that it was definitely his last ride, his final match in WWE forever. You've always got that never say never thing in the back of your head though, and I'm sure Taker says it to himself too a whole lot, but I think it's a great way for Taker to leave, and the WWE definitely made the best out of a terrible situation. So I'm gonna upload a video soon on the Firefly Funhouse match that happened during night 2 of WrestleMania 36. For now though, thanks for watching guys, and take care.
With the bomb strength, ain't nobody man enough to feel the pain.